Now we've covered how to properly fit a backpack and find the backpack that is the best fit for you. Now we're going to talk about the things that go into the backpack. And even for a simple overnight trip, there is a lot of stuff you're going to be carrying. So we're going to break it down layer by layer. We're going to start at the bottom of the pack and move to the top and then go to the outside. And we'll talk about all that coming up. Starting out at the bottom of our pack, we want most of our light and more bulky items at the bottom. We don't want to put our food, our heaviest items, at the bottom of our pack. What that's going to do is create all kinds of problems. After a few miles, with all that weight down there by your hips, it's just going to make your hips sore, your lower back sore, could actually, kind of rub it a little bit raw. Anyway, you're not going to be liking it. So, bulk and light stuff at the bottom of your pack. What does that usually end up being? Well, it usually ends up being your sleeping bag, your tent, and your clothes. With a sleeping bag, it's really nice to get a bag that is either down or synthetic, and that's going to depend on the environment that you're traveling in, predominant environment you're traveling in. If you're in a cold and wet environment, like traveling a lot on the coast, you may want to get a synthetic bag. Down bags are super warm and super light, but if they get wet, they lose their insulating value. So it might be good if you're traveling in a wet and cold and damp environment to just get a synthetic bag. If, on the other hand, you're more inland in, say, an alpine environment like the Wallowas in Northeast Oregon, a down bag might be the right ticket. They're light, again, and they're super warm. This is a 0-degree bag, down bag, and it packs down really nice. Another thing to think about is getting a compression sack for your sleeping bag. This allows you to really cinch down and kind of compress your sleeping bag into a smaller unit. The next thing to think about is your tent. Now, when you're out shopping for a tent, especially if you're going backpacking 3 seasons, not in the wintertime, you can get a really light 1 to 2 person tent. And this one is a mega mid. It doesn't have a floor, and most of the time it's okay, except for early season when the mosquitoes are really bad. But I can pack this. It only has 1 pole, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take it out of the bag and I'll push it into the bottom of my backpack, and that just kind of allows me to kind of really push down and create a lot more space in the bottom of my backpack. And then with clothes, I can also put them in a compression sack, and those are the 3 things I like to put in the bottom of my pack. Okay, one of the things that we're putting in the bottom of our pack is our clothes. Now there are a few things I'm going to leave outside of that, just that I might want easy access to. One of those is my jackets, right? Whether it's a really warm jacket or my rain jacket and so forth. A big consideration when you're backpacking is you want to layer. You don't want to get so hot that you start to sweat, and then of course that sweat means then you're damp and wet, which then if it's a cold environment, maybe you could be more susceptible to hyperthermia that way. So we always want to kind of create a layering system that allows us when we get warm to be able to shed layers, and then when we get cold to put additional layers on. When I'm backpacking, a lot of times like up toward the top of my pack, I'm just going to kind of fit down into the sides to kind of fill up my backpack, my soft shell jacket. So this is a light jacket, could be a fleece. This happens to be a soft shell, but it's just a really nice layer to have. If it's just just cooling off a little bit, like in the evening, and you need a little extra warm layer, boom, there you go. And this might be what you wear most of the time you're outside. If things start getting a little colder in the evening or in the morning, then it's really nice to have a puffy, some kind of insulated layer. So this could be a ski parka, It could also be a down jacket. This is a 700 fill down jacket. That is a great layer. And this, usually, even in the alpine, in the late spring and fall, this is all I need. This will keep me warm. Throw a hat on. This will keep me warm through the evening. Now, if it starts to rain or we start to get a little snow, then it's really good to make sure that you have a waterproof layer. So this is a rainproof, waterproof shell. And if it starts to rain, voila, I can just throw that on. Now, the clothing items that you're going to have at the bottom of the pack are going to be things that you're going to change into maybe one extra set of clothes. One thing to think about when you're backpacking, you're always actually considering is weight. You don't want to be just putting more weight onto your back. It's going to become that big existential gorilla that's just going to be bearing down on you and causing all kinds of problems. So we want to try to keep our backpacks as light as possible. When I'm thinking about clothing, I think about the clothing I'm going to be wearing that day, and maybe I'm going to have one set of change up. And that might be for not a long weekend trip to a whole week-long trip. I might only have a couple changes of underwear, one or two shirts to change into, and a few different pairs of socks, but I probably am just going to be wearing, one set of shorts, one set of pants, a shirt, a little long sleeve, some long johns, and that's about it. And of course, always bringing a beanie. Maybe you want to bring a pair of gloves if it's fall weather or cooler weather. Another thing that's really important is, again, like I say in the learning modules, is do not bring cotton. This is a great EOU shirt. We want to support our alma mater, but it's cotton. So I ain't bringing it. I'm going to bring synthetic fabrics. Like this just happens to be a wool blend shirt. And these pants just so happen to be quick drying synthetic polyester pants. And these socks are a wool blend. You want to try and keep away from cotton. If cotton gets wet, it loses its insulation value. Whereas synthetic polypro, capilene, wool blends, those will dry out fairly quickly.